Okay, we are in Nags Head Woods, and this is Goatman territory. Now, Goatman is a unique Outer Banks legend. He is fairly recent. Most of them have been established for several decades, generations. Goatman is fairly new. In fact, if you ask locals born before the 1970s or had kids before the 1970s anything about Goatman, they're not going to be able to offer you much. But you ask somebody born after the mid to late 1970s, anybody who went to school out here in the 80s, they've got some Goatman stories.
You can't be from the Outer Banks without knowing who the Goatman is. Before my family moved to Manio on Roanoke Island, we lived on the outskirts of the woods, the southern end. Back in those days, kids were sent out to go play, and you wouldn't come home until the streetlights came on. So many of my hours, my childhood, were spent in the woods, tramping around, looking for Goatman.
The story of Goatman, it varies from person to person, but it always kind of figures on one essential figure. There's a man who lives out in Nags Head Woods alone, has a lot of goats. He's very protective about his goats. He's very recluse. Doesn't like a lot of visitors. So these teenagers go out into Nags Head Woods one night, presumably drinking, as teenagers do, and to go and taunt Goatman and his goats. You know, teenagers, they're just awful people. So they go to Goatman's house. He's not there, but his goats are, and they commence to torment his goats, just kicking them around, whatnot. One particular individual gets a bit out of hand and kills Goatman's favorite goat. This upsets Goatman, who is deep in the woods, hears his goat screaming, comes back to his house in time to find these kids motoring away down the dirt path in Nags Head Woods. His favorite goat lies bloody and dead on the ground. And on that night, Goatman declares vengeance on anyone who trespasses in Nags Head Woods, particularly teenagers. He walks around the woods in a yellow raincoat. Sometimes it has the blood of the goat still on it. He carries an axe, and if he sees anybody, he just straight up kills them with the axe. He doesn't ask any questions, hunts them down, chops them up. He's even been known to throw the axe at people to try to get them to stop. Some folks say that he will actually follow you out of Nags Head Woods. It's a bit iffy. Most of the time these guys tend to stay towards their territory, but Goatman is no joke amongst the locals. It should be noted, however, that there have been no documented sightings of Goatman in Nags Head Woods. Usually when there's a pet slaughtered or killed in the area, Goatman is blamed for it, but there's been no human casualties.
We'd start off at the little yellow cottage that was rumored to be his. It was this cool old hunting cabin that over time became very dilapidated and still had that eeriness about it. But I'd always start there. And peering in the windows, you would never find anyone. So that's when the real adventure began.
It's the Goatman of Nags Head Woods. Interesting thing about Goatman is he's not alone. Not only is he new to the area, but Goatman, or Goatmen, so to speak, have popped up all around the United States. They're known as cryptids at this point. These are animals that are being talked about, have been searched for, but there's no scientific proof that they exist. Goatman is, in some legends, he's a man in a raincoat with his hood up, like the one for Nags Head Woods. In others, he's the man with a goat's head. And indeed, some of the people I've interviewed about Goatman on the Outer Banks have said that, yeah, he has a goat's head. Now, from there, it's either a goat's head due to some supernatural occurrence, or it's the head of his favorite goat that he wears on top of his own that he uses to get revenge. Goatman, like I said, has popped up all over the United States. Many states have their version of Goatman, some of them in a yellow raincoat, some of them with the goat's head. Probably the most famous ones are the ones in Maryland and Kentucky.
Started going through the woods, this self-induced terror as a child, finding yourself in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods, heart pounding, jumping at every tree branch that you'd hear crack. And I never really thought ahead, you know, I never thought, what will I actually do or say if I came across Goatman? I just really wanted to find him, you know. And although I never actually ran into him, I always felt like I was being watched.